for the latest information on the markets. Tom put out some great information this morning. I highly recommend you read it. And welcome into our YouTube crowd, dtitrader.com/YouTube. You too can follow along with the presentations and review previous presentations at dtitrader.com/YouTube. We're going to be talking about markets, so we have to do a risk disclaimer. And of course, as always, there is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone are going to be responsible for the decisions you make, so consider them carefully and consider the risk. Risk is always an important part of trading. Past performance is not indicative of future results. And, well, we're going to get to talking about some of that past performance and what it's showing us about the market. Now, a couple of the things shaping the market, we know Iran is in the headlines, geopolitical. That's going to be coming out. The news media is doing a great job of covering that. I say great. There's a lot of coverage out there if you want to look at it. So, that could be something that affects the markets, though a lot of that effect is already in place. We'll see if things change. Some of the key levels to talk about in the market. This is the third day of March. So, for those of you following along with the FTD algo, our key levels, current high of the week and the month, first 3 days, 69.11 quarter. Current low is 67.1875, putting the midpoint of that range at about 68.15. And if you were watching the market this morning, you notice we came down to that level and couldn't get below it, really hanging right at the open of the month, which is 68.20. Economic news this week. Well, we've got AVGO earnings. That's Broadcom. They're going to be reporting at the end of the day, and anything tech related, AI related, a lot of people paying attention to. So Broadcom earnings this afternoon. Keep an eye out for the market's reaction to that. We have got the employment situation report coming out on Friday. ADP was better than expected, so we'll see if the employment situation agrees with that. Plus, retail sales coming up on Friday. So let's get into the heart of it and come to Tom Busby. Tom, in your opinion, what are you seeing in the market right now?
Well, I'm seeing a relaxation of fear. If you look at the VIX right now, it's at 2090. And so if it starts getting below 20, and then really the number we really like to see is about 18. But it's telling you that the market is adapting to what we call, I use that term in your daily rundown, the daily new normal, so to speak. One of the areas that I got my eye on, obviously, is crude oil. That's a wild card. And the reason crude oil going higher at this stage is so dangerous to the trend is because we've got so used, as long as Trump's the president, crude being declining. It went down to $55 a barrel. So 55 up to 75 is a big jump for most people. They don't remember that it was at 75, 80, 82, all the way up to 100 in the previous 4 years. So I think I think eventually it will decline. The number that tells me that the decline is starting is if crude oil goes below 69 on a closing basis. I actually shorted crude this morning in futures. I was looking at it. The opening price was 74.74. This is in the pre-market, shorted about 70 for even. It went down to 73.50, got me out. That was a $500 pop for me, which was a real confidence builder in a market that's been very difficult to kick off the month of March. And I say difficult is because we have to make sure as traders, as we did yesterday, taking profit on our pocket puts, we have to make sure that the wild card doesn't show its head. But I think the market tension-wise, you can tell that by the way the S&P is trading, the way the NASDAQ is trading, the way the QQQ is trading. The QQQ is up here around 610. And if you go to yesterday and the low in the 2 days for the QQQ, you're looking at 592. So that's quite a run. And then you take the day's opening, which was 604. We're actually we're at 610. You know, ATR would put you somewhere between 612 and 615 today. So that'd be a heck of a day coming off yesterday for day three. Now, NVIDIA has impressed me. I got to tell you, I've always liked NVIDIA as a stock trading stock. I think that NVIDIA, even when the market was down and out, they were buying it down there at 174, 175. So basically throws a floor in my mind around 170, 175. So the way to play NVIDIA, and I'm going to do that, I'm sure sometime today, is capture some premium on the NVIDIA. And the beautiful thing about NVIDIA is they have options expiring now 3 days a week. So that's some pretty good stuff. So these are the kind of things that we can be happy about. I've got two new stocks I want you to look at, Jonathan, if you'll add to the list. Teradyne, the symbol is TR, okay? It's really going to benefit from the AI trade. They call it the picks and shovels of AI. And Modine. Modine was an exciting stock to look at. MOD is the symbol, MOD. So these are two stocks I'm going to start following because I think they've got quite a little bit of upside in them. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. In other words, instead of the pure plays, your Google, your NVIDIA, those type plays, the picks and shovels are the people that make it up. Modine is very interesting because they're planning on putting a lot of these data centers in Texas, and the guy I was listening to said that with extreme weather there, Modine's going to have a big play in all those data centers in Texas because you got to keep those things cool. Yeah, you got to keep those things cool. So I think that could be something we could maybe once we get the trend, and when I mean once we get the trend, where you've got a consistent trend, one that we can take some longer term positions in, that might be some things we do. I think it's interesting to look at some of our mutual fund stocks. Just to point out, I bought some more just for your information this morning on EQX, Equinox Gold. I like the way it stayed up. I like the way it looks. I added to that position a little bit this morning. Obviously, I'm long GDX. I'm long SLV. But those are some adjustments I made. A little bit incremental, adding to a position. But so far today, the market's really been advertised. I think with once we got above 68.55, we ought to be long. And it jumped up. Maybe we're going to challenge that 69.11, 69.02 area. That'd put this market back in the ballpark for going higher. Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, all those trades that Tom's talking about and looking for, and all the ones in the past, you can track through uh, dtitrader.com/TNT, the TNT Telegram channel. Does a great job of putting all the information out there. And Tom's up early in the morning to give you that. And when I say early, I'm talking it's not just that the sun hasn't risen, Tom. I don't think even the birds are ready for that sun to come up. Those messages going out very, very early in the morning. And let's talk about, some of the resources that we have here at DTI that we make available to you guys. Start out with your first book, Tom, Winning the Day Trading Game. I was there when you wrote this. I think it's an incredible book. People can click here, is that for the audio or is that to grab
That's
the book
probably for the
itself?
audio, Chuck, because
Yeah.
most people go to Amazon to get the hard copy. I think that's for the audio.
Yeah, there you go. But definitely give that a listen. If you're looking for a little bit more detailed information about particular subjects, you can go to DTI White Paper Booklet. We've got plenty of white papers that cover subjects here that we teach here at DTI. The YouTube page, we mentioned that earlier. By the way, the YouTube audience coming in. Hello, everybody on YouTube. important terms to know, a little bit of a definition, if you will, a little bit of a dictionary going on there. And the penalty tape, Tom, we talked about that recently. That is a very good piece of audio to get you kind of back on the right track. If you're feeling a little bit lost, getting a little bit ahead of yourself, bring in a little bit of humility. Trading is it's a profession, and you have to approach it professionally. When you get a little bit off track, go back to the basics. Penalty tape's a good way to get there. The options playbook and Tom's BNN interview. This was way back in 2000. Was this 2008 or
I
2009?
think it's 2007, 8.
Yeah, so it was right there around the financial crisis, and just the mindset of a trader. I think is something that you need to harness, and this is a pretty good example of that. BNN interview. Go ahead and click that link to listen in. But before we leave you with all those resources, we've got a session to cover here today. What the S&P did overnight from the viewpoint of DTI reference bars, and I'm gonna let you take this over, Tom.
All right, me and Jonathan can do this for us. All right, so the first thing you want to do is go back and track what happened during RB1, okay? And that was last night when we opened up. We're using E-mini here. You can see we were up, and then later on, after about 9 o'clock, the market went down, bottomed out about 1 a.m. in the morning. That's about an hour prior to Europe coming in. And then once we hit RB2, I believe, RB2, we went positive. And that's about the time I woke up this morning, RB2 time frame, and sort of I looked at the setup, and the setup looked good. And I said, we should go, once we get our pivot number above 68.55, we should go higher. And if you'll look and play that over, you had consolidation during RBX. Then you get to RB3, and you got a perfect setup there where it broke out and took us higher, and that's where we are now. Now, the market is setting up for Genesis, which happens between 11:30 and 12. And after Genesis, you expect, if it's a short-term lull, this is the time to maybe take a break and see where it is at RB4, where we have live trading. But that's just sort of the way this day is playing out. Clearly, it's an up day. If you just base it off the QQQ opened today at 604, and the QQQ is trading 609. That's 5 big points there. So I think this is very helpful to see how I got to where I am today. And I made a couple statements like, it looks to me like we're coming out of the garage, and later on the day we got another half a day to play it. But I think this is a great analysis that you ought to be doing. Now, Chuck does a real good job. If you look at the pre-market planner, the problem with it, it's updated by the DTI rundown, but he gives you a play-by-play of yesterday. And Chuck, you did about 9 o'clock last night, roughly, when you get it out.
Yeah, about 10 Eastern.
about,
So
about
yeah,
10 Eastern. So, and then you do the daily rundown when you get up in the morning.
yeah, that's usually going up around 8 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So he's got what happened before he went to bed and what happened after he got up. And I look at it the same way because it's a 24-hour market. I want to know some of these things. For example, last night at 8 o'clock, let's talk about gold and silver real quick. Gold was at GLD was at 492. Well, as I said, 492, 472 last night. Well, GLD's pulled back after rallying to about 472.80. Silver was at 82. SLV was at, not I'm giving you futures, but SLV, I don't have that number from last night, but silver futures, looking at it, was at 82, so we're up about $2 from there. That tells me from 8 o'clock last night when the cash stocks to be traded in the overnight session that the market has moved higher on those numbers. And it should help you have a framework when you tie that in with the daily open. Okay. And anyway, I think that's important to note where it is at 8 o'clock the previous night. You get that from roadmap software under the research key to get those numbers. Or you can go to a chart, if you got Thinkorswim, and put your cursor over it and find out where it was at 8 o'clock. That's a good thing to check before you take any position in the day market, especially for the stock ticker. That might be the insight of the day I'm giving you on the fact you can check it and see how it's doing since 8 o'clock last night when they don't recognize it from Wall Street, but I do. That's when it opened. Okay. Next on the agenda today, we're finding 10 stocks that neared a high from the first 3 days so far. Let's see what Jonathan came up with. Jonathan, take it over.
Yeah, and I was just going to add your insight of the day to the slide prior to this, but track stocks from their 8 p.m. Eastern open.
In parentheses, that's when they start trading in overnight session. So if you have, and this is something you ought to ask your broker, but if you got a stock that you bought in the afternoon, if you get out past 8, I think it's not called a day trade. We need to verify that, Jonathan. I'd like to know the ruling on that because it seems to me that's when they do all the money. So maybe that will give us another example. People with smaller accounts can get in the evening with stock and out, after 8. Make some money.
Curious to know.
Huh?
Absolutely. Be curious to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know the answer. I don't have an answer. I asked it at one time. I forgot what the guy told me, but he was shocked that the guys talking to from Schwab was shocked they traded them. I said, oh yeah, didn't you know y'all offered 24-hour trading with stocks? Denise says, yes, after 8 is considered not a day trade. That's the 8 o'clock open. Be sure it's 8. For futures, it doesn't matter. Futures open at 6. That's a great thing to know, okay, for people that's got a smaller account, less than 25,000. What I don't like hopefully they'll hurry up and change that rule. But once you become a pattern day trader and you do a day trader, they put you in permanent jail. They give you the death penalty. It's just crazy to me. That's just crazy. Don't get me started.
All right, let's get this updated. The March first 3 day stocks, today's the last day of the 3 day to form. So we're looking forward to that finishing up. Gonna update this once again. Okay, whoops, hang on. Now there's a lot of information. I've narrowed it down for us, Tom, to this sheet right here. Well, actually, before I do that, hang on. Let me copy all this. Actually, not ready yet. Hang on. Make sure nothing has made a new high today. That's the last time I updated it. Looks like some tickers did, so I'm glad we took the time to do that. Got your 2 new added on there as well. What this is, I've got a consolidated sheet so far. Remember, the day's not done yet. We're just looking right now. But there's your FTD high and low in the mid for the 3 days so far. I got it listed here as a top third threshold. So like the S&P, if we broke down the range so far for the 3 days, the top third begins at 68.47. We can call it 45s, and that's Tom's favorite number in the S&P 45, 68.45. Above that level, above 68.45, and the S&P is going to be in the top third of its 3-day range. I've got the current price here, and if the current price is above that top third number, it'll say true out here to the right, Tom.
That's pretty cool. And let me tell you why this is important. What it's doing is giving us a heads up of how the general trend is setting up for the 3-day. Okay. Everybody see it? That is that to me is I think pretty interesting because it tells you. Notice Bitcoin is moving to its top third too. That's interesting too, isn't it? Risk that they call that risk on. You see that? But you got the QQQ, SPY, and TQQ, Diamond, XLF. You got a bunch of it. Go back over here. Notice that USO, which would be going down, is not in the top third, which after all, if you listen to mainstream media, you'd think that oil was at $150 a barrel, but the numbers are telling you a different story looking at USO. Look at that, Jonathan. That's an interesting little insight.
Yeah. Still above the midpoint, but not in the top third. We'll see how the day ends.
Yeah, see how the day, pretty interesting. Copper looks good. Amazon. Now, Mag 7 looked like they're pretty good. There's what? Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, AMD.
All around real good. Google's just below it. Same for Apple. Not even
Yeah.
below. Uh, Micron's a little bit below.
What's this midpoint for Micron?
Let's see. That'd be the third column, 396.
396 for Micron.
Do this real quick. There we go. Walmart is literally right at its top third number, 127.73. The
That's
range,
interesting too, isn't it?
yeah, and the range for Walmart really not very wide. And that's not a bad thing.
They're pretty stable, hasn't it?
Yep. General Motors back looking stronger. There's your defense ETF, XAR. One of them is in the top third between the two. Now, is that right? Let me make sure that's right. RTX, is RTX way down at
Yep,
206?
RTX. That's another sign. Typically it went up to 214, I think. RTX actually had a long position I cashed in on, but RTX has really come down, hasn't it?
It has, but there's something off with those numbers there. So I'll have to spend a few minutes
Yeah, the
double
current price is
checking.
around 206. That's right.
Oh, I see what I've done here. Hang on just a second. I need to redo this
Okay.
on my trade tracker. I had Raytheon and XAR flipped around. That can make a difference. Let me just quickly update all this. Everything else should be correct on here, but these two here, let me just get it all updated again.
Hey, add AIR to this. AIR. Neil Sullivan just gave me that stock. If anybody knows the defense stocks, he does, with his background. AIR.
AIR. Okay. I'll be able to add it here.
What's ASTS, Buck? Base, mobile, ASTS. They came public yesterday with an ETF. Does anybody know the symbol for the one? It was the weapons. Did y'all see that one? It came public yesterday. Weapon. I was going to go research it, but I didn't have time. It's weapons. I think the name of the company. It's an ETF.
Okay, now those numbers are correct.
Perfect. Look at Palantir. Palantir's had quite a month, hasn't it? It opened, went down to 138. The midpoint's 146. Palantir's shooting at 152. Yeah, Palantir acted real well. You know, it was down and out last month, but Palantir looks like it's finally found some footing. That grid stock, I bought a little bit more of it this morning. I'm still not have a big position, but I did buy a little bit of it. Grid, URID. It's sort of stayed staple. Do you have EPOL in here? EPOL, you need to add that one. That's another stable company. The mid company in Poland.
Okay.
And we'll eliminate some of the ones we're not going to trade, but I like to look at it at first of the month because I'm really trying to find out where to put. You know, you got your first tranche of real speculative money that goes into your indexes, everything else. But I do like to have positions that I hold once they hit that 3-day close. That's how I got in Walmart at 119.
Let me post the spreadsheet link and the two tabs. The first two tabs are the ones that you'll want to reference there today. At the end of the day, I'll have the typical spreadsheet updated to just include the 3-day high and low. And so you'll see these columns go away. And I'll have that top third updated as well. So you can kind of see, okay, well, at the end of the third day, what's closer to the, exactly what we're doing here. What's in the top third? Any questions on the spreadsheet?
All right, E-mini triggered long at 68.36. Jonathan said 68.47 was support. And I said the pivot number was 68.55. It's trading 68.75 right now. The NASDAQ triggered long at 248.18. It's at 251. That's a big trigger there. Crude oil went short at 74, around 74. Gold triggered long at 51.46. That's gold futures. 51.46. Let me check it out, see what gold futures is. Yeah, 51.59 there. Silver triggered long at 86. That's silver futures. Silver futures is at 83. Okay, it's still dragging. You got Apple at 266. It triggers long. Amazon at 212. 215. NVIDIA triggered long at 181.90. NVIDIA is at 182.56. These are long signals issued today. Micron triggered long at 399. Micron is at 403. Okay. These are early signals that at 3 o'clock today, I'll be dialing in some things that have pretty high probabilities as we get closer to the end of the 3 days. So, again, NVIDIA is something I like. I like Palantir also. Anyway, just throwing that out there. Like MU. Like the SPY. Genesis is going to set the tone at 12 o'clock. Pretty good stuff we're giving you, folks. Are y'all able to grasp everything we're telling you, or is it getting your curiosity up to learn more? Sean, I usually go 21 days or 6 weeks. Hey, Sean, I was supposed to call you. Give me your number again. Make it easy on me. What was your number? I changed notebooks. I ran out of paper in my original one. Put your number in there, Sean. I'll give you a call. Hey, Debbie from Kansas. Sean, if I call it, come from area code 499. I mean, 251, sorry. Pay attention, Tommy boy. All right, so that's good. Good stuff. All right, what else we got? Thanks, Kev. All right, let's talk crude oil. This is the wild card to everything that we say. This could kill any trend out there. Okay. It's been as high as 78. Current price is 74. If it goes above 78, that's when all the news people start talking about inflation, interest rates, and all the things that kill the economy. What number, though? Here's an important number you ought to set an alert on that tells us that the Iran conflict, okay, and it will tell you it's easing and time to go. That's the number, 69. Breaks that, then we'll find a lot of these other stocks start performing better. Remember that number. Got one number to watch, low 69, then the general market's going to take a different flavor. Let's have a few. Hey, I had a real one of our new students sent me some very good questions. And I told Jonathan, let's include these in today's presentation. Let's go through it. Is the day open the same as the week open? Okay. In futures, on Sunday night, 6 o'clock is the week open on futures, correct? It's also the day open on Monday. And 9:30 is the cash open for that day. And on Monday, it's the week open. Great question. And inside the roadmap, we capture all those numbers for us automatically. We don't forget.
And what some that may not know, because maybe you're brand new to roadmap, I'll show you this live. At the top of the metrics is a little box you can check on and off labeled RB. And with it checked in the metrics area, the blue ink is going to tell you the open from the current reference bar. But watch what happens to that blue ink if I uncheck the RB box. It now tells you the daily open. And you should have noticed the zones shift as well down to that daily open viewpoint. So if you do that to see where the daily open number was, I would just recommend that you remember to check it back on so it shifts back up to the current reference bar, but you can quickly do that to refer to where the market opened that trade day. Pretty cool feature right there. All right, Tom, here's the next question that came through to you.
Okay, pocket put trade on QQQ. With the 555.45 put trade spread on QQQ and the current price of 601, would price need to drop to approximately, yeah, if you waited the expiration date, it would, but you will find, usually that's got a delta of around 5, right, Jonathan? If I remember correctly, about 5 delta.
Yeah,
So,
typically. Yeah.
so if it drops by point value. If it drops 10 points, you paid 50, right, from where you got in, it's gonna be worth close to, 80 or 90 at that time. It's a heck of a trade to pocket puts. Now you can't stay with them forever, but unless you're just gonna go all or nothing, which is the way you already set it up, thinking wise, because you can really get hooked into doing these. And next thing you know, you'll have 100 or 200 and they go kaplooey on you and you go, boy, I wish I'd have done that. But I think that pretty, pretty good to take advantage of the short-term trends also. The pocket put, and it gives you overnight coverage. It's really insurance for that reason I do it. I typically will set the thing anywhere from 20 to 40% of what we pay. 20 to 40% is a good target. John, the VIX movement can affect the price of how they price these puts. Remember, it's an insurance trade. Think of it that way, out of the ordinary. Can I explain the pivot number and why it's so important? First, there's pivot numbers for everything you trade. Okay. Uh, the pivot number is how I look at the general market. There's a rule. 75% of all stocks follow the E-mini. So if you did a count right now with the E-mini trading at 68.80, I established a pivot number of 65.55, and you looked at those stocks at that level, most 75% of them are going to be higher in price. If you did a study on that rule. But it's a great thing to know each day because each day it keeps you on the right side of what I call history. Today was not a short day. Today was a long day. Does everybody understand what I'm doing with my pivot number on the E-mini? I'm trying to get you on the right side. And that alone makes you a better trader if you get on the right side because this baby is all over the board some days, right? But the pivot number is a good starting point each day. Been doing it for years. There's also pivot numbers for stocks too. In fact, if you learn what I teach you, you can calculate your own pivot number for any stock you trade. Is there a tool or app within DTI that shows the daily high and low for the week? For example, if today is Thursday, is there a tool that displays Monday through Wednesday's high and low for the week? Jonathan, you handle that.
Roadmap has a feature called the numbers that pay. It's under tables. Really, really neat feature. I've squared off the H, H, and LL columns, and I'm also going to circle the Wednesday tab at the bottom left of that feature. Now, we're trading Wednesday's market right now, which means the H, H, and LL columns is the high and low for the week up to that point. So if on Wednesday we've had 2 full trading days that have finalized, that means that the high and low from those 2 days is listed here. Tomorrow, it'll showcase the Thursday tab, and at that point, we would have 3 full trade days for the week this week. And so On this feature tomorrow on Thursday, the HH and the LL would showcase the high and low from the first 3 days of the week. So this is exactly the feature that we're looking for here to figure out, okay, well, what's the high and low for the week coming into the trade day? You can set your price levels, your alerts, and be alerted that if a stock makes a new high for the week or a new low for the week accordingly. Great feature.
Really, I think you'll find if you hang around this very much at all, the conclusion is you need a roadmap on your computer. It gives you so much great information. Think about this. For 40 years, we've been using it, 25 for sure. I did it by hand at first. It's got all the information that sets up my day, Jonathan's day, Jeff's day. Anybody that's trading the DTI approach can take this roadmap and cut their study time down to a minimum once you know where to go.
Yeah, so many features like that too, that just endless amount of information, whatever information you need. Most likely Roadmap has it, I would say. And for the reference bars, same question for the reference bars. We have all kinds of features for that. The first one I'm going to display here is the research key, and I've put in a request to the programming team, Tom, to get RB X, Y, and Z added to the research key. I noticed that wasn't on there, but if you go to the research key, click over to the daily tab, you can see the RB data for RB 1, 2, 3, and 4, our main 4 reference bars. And then for all 7 reference bars, go to tables and hit the Genesis feature. And when you load in your symbols, there's an individual tab for each. Here in this display, I toggled it over to the QQQ, and you can see RB open, high, low, close data for all your reference bars. You can start scrolling to go, days and days and days back. And that's only, yeah, I mean, this feature's intention was actually something different, but an added bonus to the feature is you get to see that RB data.
Do you have the Genesis slide? That, I want to show him something on the Genesis slide. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, let me just showcase that real quick on the live market. I've got the S&P QQQ sitting there.
Okay. If you look, does everybody see the 6857 number on the E-mini? Everybody see that? That's a trigger when it's on Genesis as HH, and it turns green, and that tells you. Let's add some other stuff. You see the long on QQQ. Let's add some other stuff, Jonathan. Add the SPY, Palantir, NVIDIA. Okay, Palantir has been consistent. I'm willing. Y'all want to take a trade on Palantir? I got a trade. I thought it out pretty good. I just did it. You might want to consider. I didn't do a big quantity of it, but I did, Jonathan. I did we'll put it in TMT. I did the 27 March, 155, 160.
Okay, I got it about 210, 215.
Yeah, you get in probably 212, 210, something like that. But Palantir is above 152. Does everybody see that today? It's above 152. What I like about this feature, it brings everything. If you got something you're tracking like I've been, Palantir, and Palantir is at 152.81, it's breaking out even further. So I'll go into Palantir, put that spread on. I put gold in there, GLD. I use this. I've got a whole screen over here that changes for me where it keeps me alerted to things I'm following. But look at gold. Gold GLD needs to go above, what's that, 478, Jonathan? Is that right?
478, yeah.
Yeah, it's at 472. All right, go to silver, SLV. It's saying it needs to get to, what, 78.65, okay? I put GDX in there, that's a minor. 109, right? All right, put SPX in there. Notice SPX is at 68.75 with the 68.50 movement there. If we took out 69.11, you could go in a SPX trade, that was out a couple of days and probably make some money on it because it's definitely trying to go higher. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. Covered gold, silver. Put TLT in there. TLT is a good one to put in there. TLT. Notice that TLT's got a 89.41 89.03 number, and TLT right now is 89.38. Keep that in mind. Okay. Put Modine in there. MOD, something new. Okay, quite a range from the low to the high, hasn't it? Is that right? 40 points. Put Terra in there. TER. I keep up with this stuff. I got a whole screen over here. If I get a stock or something I'm looking at, after 12, by the way, a little thing you need to know, those longs on the futures right now, you're in that Genesis bar. You really need to wait to Genesis to get there. But it's telling you right now it's pretty hot on the side, right? Okay, just showing that. All right, so we did a Palantir trade today in TNT. I gave it enough time, Jonathan, that we can have 3 days and see if this Palantir trend continues.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've issued that trade.
You put a target out there?
I just added 20% to it, Tom,
Yeah.
which is about 249,
That's good.
259.
I'd take it. Wouldn't you?
Yep. What you normally target, 20%.
Hey, put TQQ in there. TQQ. This might be a good way, if it goes, it's long right now, but this might be a good way to set up a 3-wide, Jonathan. Give us an extra trade there. Maybe during live trading. Let's look at it then. All right, folks. Did we cover everything?
Not quite. We've covered a lot. Let's go back to the
Slides
here.
How you like train and trade? How many people like train and trade? Interesting how we can teach you things tied into the current market. If you want to get the roadmap software, you click that link right there.
DTItrader.com/roadmap.
Yep.
And Tom, we're forming the Genesis bar. Adam queued up the Genesis algo for us today.
Yeah, this is an algo, is a core indicator we developed, and it does all the work for you and spits it out after 12 on any ticker that you're tracking or whatever. So it's like a handy assistant. Like I said, it gets a whole thing of real estate for me, but we give you it'll come out with tickers, entry prices, stop losses, and profit and details. So you practically set it and forget it. So this is something that you ought to really look at having in your portfolio of services. Posted in the Telegram room. It's tracking it right now. I used to do this by hand. I said, I'm going to let the computer do it. They're better at doing it because sometimes my bias got in the way. Can't be biased with Genesis. It will tell you exactly what you should be looking at. Saved me a fortune, Jonathan, over time. Peg, I'm typically taking a Genesis trade for overnight to the next day, cleaning the slate and looking at a new one. I don't stay long with these things. No, I think the fact people forget, if you get out of a trade and you made 20, 25% on it, okay? Uh, think about that. You do that about 3 times a week, you've had a heck of a week. We also have a course in here that we put together over many months, and we give that as part of joining Genesis. You ought to listen to that course, ask questions. Do like our student did and send them to us that, hey, they might make the big time, we're bringing to you, to everybody. Those were great questions. Goodness gracious. Entry, if you want to buy it, you go to dtitrader.com/Genesis. You call 904-706-3532. You're going to play the big recording, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a video to stream, whatever you want to cue it up.
Shoot it up.
All right, let's do it.